All right, strap in, everyone, because today we are going deep on PPAR.
PPR.
Yeah, peroxisome proliferator activated receptors.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
don't worry, the name is a lot more intimidating
Right.
than the concept itself.
Yeah, it does sound a bit like a mouthful, doesn't it? Like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Right.
But
yeah.
PPIs are actually pretty incredible.
Yeah.
They're these tiny little proteins inside our cells that act like sensors.
Ooh, sensors.
Monitoring the
Right.
levels of fats and making decisions
Okay.
based on what they find.
So they're like the
Yeah.
little fat police.
Yeah, the fat
Wow,
police,
things in check.
making sure everything is
We're
running
trying to keep it
smoothly.
balanced.
These tiny little fat police are super important for just
Absolutely.
general health.
They're crucial for keeping our bodies running smoothly.
Yeah.
They influence everything from
Wow.
how we burn fat for energy to how we control inflammation.
I never would have guessed that.
It's amazing.
Just these little guys. They're
Yeah.
so important.
Really important players.
Yeah, but I gotta say,
Yeah.
that name,
Yeah.
peroxisome,
Yeah.
proliferator,
It is a mouthful.
activated
Yeah.
receptor?
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Okay, so let's
I break it down.
break it down a little bit.
Okay.
So a receptor is essentially a protein that sits on or inside a cell
Okay.
and waits for a specific molecule to come along and bind to it.
Okay.
Kind of like a lock and key.
Oh, like a lock.
Yeah.
And key.
Exactly.
The receptor is the lock.
The receptor's the lock.
And the molecule
Okay.
that binds to it is the key.
And that triggers.
And when that key fits into that lock,
Yeah.
it triggers a whole cascade of events inside the cell,
Okay.
leading to changes in how the cell functions.
Okay.
Now, in the case of PPARs, the key that activates them is often a fatty acid
Oh, so that's
or a
your
molecule derived from a fatty acid.
fatty acid part comes in.
Exactly.
Okay. So we got the activated receptor, but what about that
Yeah.
peroxisome proliferator?
Peroxisome proliferator part,
That sounds kind of scary.
it does sound a bit intimidating,
Yeah.
but it's not as scary as it sounds.
Okay.
Peroxisomes are these tiny compartments within our cells
Okay.
that help break down fatty acids
So it's like
and other molecules.
the
that-
recycling center of
Yeah, kind of like a
let's-
little cleanup crew.
Okay.
And when scientists first discovered PPAs,
Yeah.
they noticed that these receptors could increase the number of peroxisomes
Oh, okay.
in cells,
So they're like
hence the name peroxisome proliferator activated receptors.
more of these.
Look at this.
Exactly. Like telling the cells,
Yeah.
hey, we need more peroxisomes to handle all these fats.
Okay, so it's a bit of a historical artifact, the name,
Yeah.
but it gives us a clue.
But it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, to what they do.
So that's just one of the things.
That's just one of the many things
the
that
PPAs do.
the PPRs do.
Right.
They're involved in a whole
We're busy.
range of processes.
Yeah.
Including regulating how our bodies use and store energy,
Okay.
controlling inflammation,
Mm-hmm.
and even influencing cell growth and differentiation.
Okay. So
It's a pretty impressive resume.
they're involved in a lot.
They are.
But you mentioned that they respond to fatty acids.
Yes.
Aren't all fatty
That-
acids?
they- That's a good question.
Yeah.
Not all fatty acids are created equal.
Oh.
There are many different types of fatty acids.
Okay.
Some are good for us and some are not so good.
Right. Like the
And just like we have different taste buds for sweet, salty, and sour.
omega. Our cells have different types of PPARs that are tuned to respond to different types of fatty acids.
Okay.
So it's like PPARs are the cell's gourmet chefs,
Oh.
able to distinguish between,
So they're like
the finest olive oil and
answers
a greasy fast food burger.
of fats.
Exactly.
Wow.
They can tell the difference.
So tell me about these different
Yeah.
types of fat.
So there are three main types of PPRs.
PPRs.
Alpha, beta, delta, sometimes just called delta and gamma.
Okay.
Think of them as siblings
Okay, please.
with distinct personalities and talents.
3 siblings.
Yeah,
We got the responsible one,
right.
the rebel,
Okay.
and the life of the party.
Which one's which?
I don't know.
Well, PPI alpha
Okay.
is often considered the metabolic workhorse.
Okay, so
You'll find it mostly in the liver,
that's the responsible one.
heart, and muscles,
Oh, yeah.
where it helps regulate how our bodies burn fat for energy.
So if I'm
So if you're trying to shed a few pounds,
trying to
you want your PPA alpha working overtime.
get rid of some of that holiday weight,
Exactly.
I need that.
When PPAR alpha is activated,
PPAR alpha to be?
It triggers a cascade of events that leads to increased fatty acid oxidation,
Okay.
which is basically the process of breaking down fats to generate energy.
Okay.
So it's like your internal fat-burning furnace.
Okay. PPAR alpha.
Yeah.
Fitness fanatic of the family.
All right, what about beta delta?
Beta delta.
This one's a bit more enigmatic.
Oh?
It's found in a wider range of tissues,
Okay.
including the brain,
Oh.
skin, and intestines.
Okay.
And we're still unraveling all its secrets.
So it's like the
But we do know it plays a role in energy metabolism,
mysterious one.
cell growth, and even wound healing.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah, kind of a jack of all trades,
Okay,
a little
okay.
bit of everything. And finally, we have gamma.
Yeah, man.
PPAR gamma is often considered the master regulator of fat storage
So that's the one in charge of.
and insulin sensitivity.
My love handles.
You could say that,
Okay.
but it's important to remember that PPAR gamma is a crucial player in maintaining healthy blood sugar levels.
Right. So
It helps our cells respond to insulin,
insulin, the key that unlocks the door
the hormone that allows our bodies to use glucose for energy.
for sugar to
Yeah.
get into the cells.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So PPAR gamma is like the gatekeeper, making sure insulin can do its job properly.
Making sure everything's working.
And when PPAR gamma isn't functioning optimally,
Yeah.
our cells can become resistant to insulin,
Yeah.
which can lead to high blood sugar levels
Right.
and eventually type 2 diabetes.
Okay. So these PPRs
So they're all very important players.
are clearly more than just fat sensors.
They are.
They're involved in.
They're involved in some pretty essential processes
Yeah, they're involved in a lot of
that affect our overall health.
crucial things.
Absolutely.
But how do they actually work?
Okay, so how do they work?
Like, I get their receptors.
Yeah,
But what happens when a
that's a great question.
fatty acid
Yeah.
binds to them?
It brings us to the fascinating world of gene expression.
Oh, genes.
Remember, PPARs are not just sitting there passively.
Okay.
They're actively controlling which genes get turned on and off
Oh, so they're like the
within the cell.
cells DJs.
I love that analogy. They're like the DJs spinning different tracks.
to create different vibes.
To create different vibes, exactly.
Listen,
So,
they actually do that.
or do they actually do that?
Like they're just proteins.
Well, it all starts with that binding event we talked about earlier.
Okay.
When a fatty acid or another activating molecule binds to a PPR,
Yeah.
it causes a shapeshift in the receptor.
Oh, a shapeshift.
Imagine a key fitting into a lock and causing the tumblers to fall into place.
Okay.
It changes shape.
So the receptor goes from being
It goes from being inactive to being active.
inactive to active.
Exactly.
When it binds.
And that conformational change, that shapeshift,
Yeah.
is what allows the PPAR to interact with other proteins
Oh.
and ultimately influence gene expression.
So it's like this shapeshift gives
Yeah.
it the power to
It gives it the power to do its job.
things.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the PPAR has been activated.
Activated PPAR.
Ready to go.
Ready to go.
What happens next?
Who does it team up with?
Well, it's not a solo act.
Oh,
PPARs need a partner in crime,
okay.
or rather a partner in transcription.
Okay.
And those partners are called co-activators.
Activate.
Co-activators.
So they're like the PPAR
Think of them as the PPAR's backup dancers,
backup dance.
helping them hit those high notes.
Okay.
The activated PPAR and its co-activator buddy then join forces
Okay.
and attach themselves to specific regions of DNA
Okay.
called PPAR response elements.
TPR response element.
Or PPREs for short.
TPREs.
PPREs.
I'll try to remember that.
Don't worry, it'll come up again.
Okay.
So, once they're bound to the PPRE,
Yeah.
they act like a signal booster, amplifying the expression of nearby genes.
So they're turning up the volume.
Exactly.
Volumes.
They're turning up the volume on certain genes,
Okay.
and that increased gene expression
Yeah.
leads to the production of more proteins,
More proteins.
which ultimately changes how the cell functions.
Okay, so it's just like a whole
So it's a pretty amazing process.
Goldberg machine.
Yeah.
It's very intricate.
Yeah.
But it's also very elegant.
But what about turning off the music?
Yeah.
Like, how
that's
do
you.
the PPARs get
We can't have the party going on all the time.
deactivated?
Exactly. We need to shut things down sometimes.
Yeah, like
And just like there are co-activators that help turn genes on,
there's got to be a way to shut down
there are also core pressors that help turn them off.
with a party. Right.
Exactly. The bouncers at the PPAR party,
Okay.
making sure things don't get too out of control. So they're like the
Core pressors bind to PPARs
activator's nemesis.
and prevent them from interacting with co-activators
Like a...
or binding to DNA.
So it's like this
Right.
constant
It's a delicate balancing act
tug of war
between activation and repression,
with the PPAR in the middle,
ensuring that gene expression is tightly regulated.
and whichever one's stronger.
Exactly. And the
Okay.
outcome of that tug of war, whether genes are turned on or off,
Yeah.
depends on a variety of factors,
Yeah, right.
including the type of PPAR,
Yeah.
the type of ligand that's bound to it,
Okay.
and the overall cellular environment.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a very dynamic process.
I think I'm getting the basics
Okay.
of how these PPRs work.
Good.
But I got to ask,
Shoot.
how does all of this
Yeah.
relate to cannabinoids?
Ah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And it brings us to
I thought
interesting intersection.
this deep dive
Yeah.
was about PPRs.
It is about PPR.
Yeah, and I thought cannabinoids
It turns out
were all about
CB1 and CB2.
can influence PPAR activity.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
So our own endocannabinoids,
It seems
like anandamide and 2-AG,
yeah,
can mess with these PPARs.
they can.
Really?
They can interact with PPRs.
Wow.
And this interplay between cannabinoids and PPRs adds another layer of complexity to our understanding
So it's not
of how these systems work together.
cannabinoids meet PPAR, sparks fly.
It's not quite that simple.
No.
It's a little more nuanced than that.
Oh.
Each cannabinoid
Okay.
seems to have its own preference
So change.
for which PPAR sibling
Okay.
wants to dance with.
Before we get into all that,
Yeah.
can you remind me
Of course.
what exactly
Yeah.
CB1 and CB2?
So CB1 and CB2 receptors
Receptors are,
are part of the endocannabinoid system,
right, the endocannabinoid system.
which is a complex network of signaling molecules and
No,
receptors.
just chill-out system. Yeah, the body's own chill-out system.
Yeah.
It plays a role in regulating a wide range of physiological processes,
Okay.
including mood,
Okay.
appetite,
Hmm?
pain,
Yeah.
and inflammation.
So where are these receptors located and how do they differ?
Well, CB1 receptors are primarily found in the brain
Okay.
and central nervous system.
Okay, so CB1 is the head honcho
You could say that.
in the brain.
Yeah, they're involved in things like mood,
Yeah.
memory, and coordination.
Okay.
CB2 receptors, on the other hand, are
Yeah.
mainly located in immune cells and tissues,
Yeah.
suggesting a role in modulating inflammation and immune responses.
So CB2 is the
So CB1 is the head honcho in the brain,
immune system
while CB2 is the immune system whisperer.
whisper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just like PPAR,
Yeah.
CB1 and CB2 receptors are activated by specific molecules,
Okay.
including endocannabinoids like anandamide and 2-AG,
Okay.
as well as plant-derived cannabinoids like THC and CBD.
So THC and CB
Yeah.
can affect
Both CB1
CB1 and CB2.
and PPAR.
And it turns out they can also influence PPARs.
Yeah. So they're
It
massively
seems like cannabinoids
multitaskers.
are master multitaskers,
Okay.
capable of influencing multiple signaling pathways
Yeah.
to orchestrate a symphony of effects throughout the body.
Okay, now we're talking.
Yeah,
This is getting interesting.
it's a fascinating area.
Okay, so now we're ready to dive into
All right,
this whole cannabinoid PPAR connection.
let's dive in.
Okay, so let's unravel this cannabinoid
Yeah.
PR connection.
So we know that both our own endocannabinoids,
Are.
like anandamide and 2-AG, and those from plants, like THC and CBD, can influence PPAR activity.
Okay.
What's fascinating is that they don't all act the same way.
Oh.
It's like each cannabinoid has its own preference for which PPAR sibling it wants to dance with.
Oh, they're picky.
They are a little bit picky.
For instance, anandamide, our own bliss molecule, seems particularly drawn to both PPAR alpha and PPAR gamma.
Anandamide.
Yeah.
So our bliss molecule.
Our bliss molecule seems to really like both alpha and gamma.
Gamma.
Yeah.
What were those two in charge of again?
So PPAR alpha, remember, is the energetic one,
Okay.
focused on burning fat for fuel.
Yeah.
And PPAR gamma is more about managing energy stores and making sure our cells are listening to insulin signals.
Okay, so alpha is like the
Fitness goodness.
the Buddhist guru.
Guru. And
But
gamma's
and gamma's like the
the blood sugar regulator.
blood sugar regulator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure everything's in balance.
So when anandamide activates
Right.
PPAR alpha, does that mean
Interesting question.
it could help us burn more fat?
Could it be part of why we feel so good after exercise?
Yeah, is that why?
Anandamide giving our PPAR alpha a high five.
I feel so good after a run.
Maybe.
Is it because of
It's an intriguing hypothesis.
anandamide?
There's definitely evidence that activating PPAR alpha can ramp up fat burning.
Okay.
Some studies have even shown that drugs specifically designed to activate PPAR alpha can lead to weight loss in animals.
So,
Whether anandamide's nudge is strong enough to have that kind of impact is still up for debate.
okay. So, maybe not a magic.
Not a magic bullet for
Still-
weight loss, but
Still
definitely a fascinating piece of the puzzle.
interesting.
Yeah.
What about when anandamide activates
All right, so
PPA gamma?
let's talk about gamma.
Yeah.
So remember, PPAR gamma is key for insulin sensitivity.
Right.
When it's working well, our cells respond to insulin efficiently, taking up glucose from the bloodstream and keeping our blood sugar levels stable
Right.
when it's out of whack.
Yeah.
That's when we see issues like insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes.
Okay, so if anandamide can boost PPAR gamma activity,
Mm-hmm.
could it
Could it potentially
help prevent?
prevent or manage those blood sugar problems?
Or
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
There are studies suggesting cannabinoids might have positive effects on glucose metabolism and insulin sensitivity, but it's complex.
Okay.
We can't say for sure if it's directly due to the PPAR gamma interaction
Yeah.
or if other mechanisms are involved.
It's like trying to isolate a single instrument in a symphony orchestra.
Hard to tell.
Yeah.
Okay?
A lot of things going
That's
on.
still pretty amazing to think our own
It is amazing.
feel-good molecule could
Right.
potentially
Yeah.
be involved in managing.
It really highlights the interconnectedness of these systems.
Yeah.
And how much we still have to discover.
Now, what about our other
All right.
endocannabinoid, 2-AG?
Do AG.
Unlike anandamide, which
Yeah.
seems to enjoy both alpha
Seems to like everything.
and gamma,
2AG has
2-AG has a particular fondness for PPR beta delta.
a particular fondness.
Yeah, for a little bit more specific.
Beta the delta, the mysterious middle child.
Mysterious middle child.
What's the scoop
What's going on there?
on that interaction?
Well, as we discussed earlier, PPAR beta delta is a bit of a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Involved in energy use,
Yeah.
cell growth, and repair.
Okay.
Think of it as the busy builder,
Okay.
constantly working behind the scenes to keep things running smoothly.
So 2AG, by activating
So by activating PPAR beta delta,
PPAR beta delta,
yeah,
could be influencing
could be influencing a whole range of processes.
a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah, that's a lot of responsibility for one little molecule.
Yeah, that is a lot.
It is.
And researchers are increasingly interested in
Researchers are
PPAR beta delta as
very interested in
PPAR beta delta
as the potential target for therapies
for all kinds of stuff.
aimed at a wide array of conditions,
Wow.
metabolic disorders,
Okay.
inflammatory diseases,
Mm-hmm.
even cancer.
Whoa.
Cancer.
Cancer.
It's a big one.
Leap from managing blood sugar
It is.
and wound healing.
So how does PPAR beta delta fit into the cancer picture?
Yeah, how does it?
Well, it's still an area of active research,
What?
but there's evidence suggesting that PPAR beta delta activity can either promote or inhibit cancer cell growth depending on the type of cancer and the cellular context.
No,
So it's complicated.
not a simple good guy, bad guy
Not a simple good guy, bad guy.
situation.
It's all about context.
Okay, so
And this is where things get really tricky because manipulating PPAR beta delta activity could have unintended consequences.
it's a tricky
It's very tricky.
situation.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got
Okay, so,
these cannabinoids, like anandamide and 2AG,
right.
influencing PPAR activity.
Influencing PPAR activity.
You mentioned earlier
Yeah.
that they're less potent activators
Less potent activators of PPRs
of PPARs
Yeah.
than their effects on
compared to CB1 and CB2.
CB1 and CB2
So how much should we really... That's a good question.
care about.
It's true that cannabinoids bind more strongly to CB1 and CB2, but that doesn't mean their interaction with PPRs
interactions.
is insignificant.
Are they just a sideshow to the main?
Think of it this way. CB1 and CB2 might be like a megaphone,
Okay.
amplifying a signal quickly and loudly.
Okay.
PPAR activation,
Yeah.
on the other hand,
Okay.
is more like a gentle whisper,
So less of a dramatic fanfare?
subtly influencing cellular processes over time.
More of a slow and steady.
Exactly. Less of a dramatic fanfare, more of a slow and steady influence.
Okay.
And in biology, those subtle long-term changes can be just as important as the immediate dramatic ones.
Yeah. I could see that.
Plus, we have to consider the fact that cannabinoids are interacting with multiple systems simultaneously.
Right, it's not
It's not just one receptor at a time.
just one thing.
It's a whole network of interactions. It's
Right.
like a complex dance routine, with each molecule taking its turn as the lead and then stepping back to let others shine.
dance routine.
Exactly.
Okay, so
Yeah.
cannabinoids are like
Yeah.
the ultimate.
They're multitaskers.
multitaskers.
You really are.
Okay, I am really starting to see the endocannabinoid system.
It's really fascinating
Let's
to think
delve.
about all of the different ways that the endocannabinoid system can influence our physiology. It's not just a chill-out system.
Yeah.
It's a master regulator,
Okay, so
working with other systems like PPARs to maintain harmony in our bodies.
before we get too
Okay.
carried away with the big picture,
Yeah.
I want to go back
Let's zoom back in.
to those
Bit big.
PPAR
Yeah.
interaction.
Interaction.
What kind of research are
Yeah, sure.
scientists doing
Yeah.
to figure out
How do they even know what's happening at the cellular level?
this connection?
Great question.
Yeah.
Scientists use a variety of techniques to investigate these interactions.
Okay. Both in living organisms and in controlled laboratory settings.
Okay.
One common approach is to use cell cultures,
Okay.
where they grow specific types of cells in a dish
Oh, okay.
and then expose them to different cannabinoids.
So it's like a little
So it's like creating a mini PPAR party in a petri dish.
mini PPAR party. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they can measure changes in gene expression,
Okay.
protein levels, or other cellular processes to see if the cannabinoids are activating PPARs and what downstream effects those activations have.
So they're like little cellular detectives looking for clues to piece together the PPAR puzzle.
They are.
But they're not just looking
They're not just looking at cells in a dish, are they?
cells in a dish.
I imagine they're also studying these interactions in living animals, right?
Right.
Animal models allow researchers to study these interactions in a more complex biological system.
Right.
They can observe how cannabinoids affect PPAR activity in different tissues and organs.
And how those effects translate into whole body responses.
So they're not just looking at the individual dancers.
Right.
They're observing the whole
They're looking at the whole choreography
choreography
of the performance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those observations can provide valuable insights into the potential therapeutic benefits of cannabinoids.
Okay, so there's this whole army of researchers
There's a lot of research going on.
dedicated to
Hot.
uncovering
It's a hot area of research.
the secrets of PPARs.
Absolutely.
What are some of the most exciting
So what are people excited about?
areas of research right now?
Well, there's a lot of buzz around the potential of PPARs as therapeutic targets for a wide range of conditions,
Okay.
from metabolic disorders to inflammatory diseases to even neurodegenerative diseases.
Wow.
And as we've discussed, the fact that cannabinoids can modulate PPAR activity opens up a whole new avenue for exploring the therapeutic potential of these compounds.
So are we talking about new cannabinoid-based therapies? Potentially.
That specifically target PPARs.
It's definitely a possibility.
Whoa.
For instance, researchers are investigating the potential of PPAR agonists,
Okay.
which are molecules that activate PPRs.
Yeah.
These agonists could be synthetic drugs or naturally occurring compounds,
Okay.
including cannabinoids.
Okay, so
We
could potentially have a whole
could have a whole new class of drug
class of drug.
that harness the power of cannabinoids to fine-tune PPAR activity and treat a variety of conditions.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
And would those be
There.
safer than existing treatments?
The exciting thing is that these therapies could offer a more targeted and potentially safer approach compared to some existing treatments.
Okay.
Because by specifically targeting PPRs,
Yeah.
we might be able to avoid some of the unwanted side effects that come with broader acting drugs.
Okay, so less
Less collateral damage.
collateral damage.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the
So this is where personalized medicine comes in.
goal, personalized.
Imagine a future where we can tailor cannabinoid therapies based on an individual's unique PPAR profile,
PPAR, targeted.
maximizing benefit and minimizing risk.
Cannabinoid therapy.
The powerful vision for the future of healthcare.
But we're not quite there yet.
Not quite there yet, but we're making progress.
Oh.
And that's what makes this field so exciting.
Yeah.
We're pushing the boundaries of scientific understanding,
Yeah.
unlocking the secrets of our own bodies, and exploring new frontiers in medicine.
Okay, I'm ready to dive into those clinical applications.
Let's do it.
But first, my brain needs a little breather.
Of course.
Can we take a quick pause?
Let's take a moment to let all this information sink in.
Before we jump into
After all, even the most fascinating scientific discoveries need time to marinate in our minds before we can fully appreciate their significance.
the clinical stuff.
All right, ready for a break?
Yeah. Okay, break time's over.
Ah.
I'm ready to dive into the clinical side of things. Where do we even begin to apply all this PPAR knowledge
Well,
to real-world health issues?
one area where PPARs have a starring role is metabolic disorders,
Oh,
particularly obesity and type 2 diabetes.
right.
Remember how PPAR alpha and gamma regulate those crucial processes of fat burning, insulin sensitivity, and blood sugar control?
Right, they're like the dynamic duo
They are
of metabolic health.
of metabolic health.
So how do cannabinoids fit into this
Yeah.
clinical picture?
That's what researchers are trying to figure out.
Okay.
There's definitely growing interest in the therapeutic potential of cannabinoids for metabolic disorders,
Yeah.
and their interaction with PPARs is a big part of that excitement.
Okay, so if cannabinoids can give those PPARs
Yeah.
a helping hand,
Yeah.
could that actually help treat these conditions?
Could they be the missing piece of the puzzle?
Yeah.
That's the hope.
Is there any evidence that this actually works in humans?
There's a good amount of preclinical research, mostly in animal models, suggesting that cannabinoids can indeed influence metabolic processes.
Yeah.
For instance, some studies have shown that CBD can improve insulin sensitivity and reduce inflammation in mice with obesity.
So those cellular interactions we've been talking about
Yeah.
actually translate
They do
into real-world benefits
translate into real-world benefit,
in living organisms.
at least in mice.
Okay, that's promising.
Yeah.
But what about human studies?
Human studies are definitely further behind.
Okay.
But there are some intriguing findings emerging.
Okay.
For example, a small study found that CBD treatment led to a decrease in insulin resistance in people with type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
While we can't say for certain that this effect was directly due to PPAR modulation,
Right.
it's certainly a piece of the puzzle that warrants further investigation.
Yeah, it seems like we're seeing the first
Yeah,
glimmers of light at the end of the tunnel.
it's promising.
Okay.
There's a lot more research that needs to be done.
But PPARs are involved in a whole
But PPARs are busy.
host of other processes
They're involved in a lot of different things.
beyond metabolism.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you mentioned inflammation.
Right, inflammation.
How do
right.
PPARs fit into that complex web
Yeah.
of immune responses?
Well, inflammation is a double-edged sword.
Okay.
It's crucial for fighting off infections and healing injuries.
Right.
But when it becomes chronic or excessive,
Yeah, like too much of a good thing.
exactly,
Instead of bad.
it can contribute to a wide range of diseases, from arthritis and heart disease to Alzheimer's and cancer.
So where do PPARs come into play in this delicate balance?
PPARs, particularly PPAR gamma, have powerful anti-inflammatory properties.
Oh,
They can act like a brake pedal,
okay.
slowing down the production of pro-inflammatory molecules and promoting the production of anti-inflammatory ones.
So activating PPAR gamma could be a way to tame that inflammatory fire when
Exactly.
it gets out of control.
That's why pharmaceutical companies have developed synthetic PPAR gamma agonists,
Oh, okay.
which are drugs that specifically activate this receptor.
Okay.
These drugs are already being used to treat certain inflammatory conditions, like rheumatoid arthritis.
So if we already have drugs
Yeah.
that target PPAR gamma
Yeah.
for inflammation,
Yeah.
where do cannabinoids fit in?
That's a great question.
Do they offer any unique advantages?
Remember that cannabinoids, unlike synthetic drugs, are naturally occurring compounds that often interact with multiple targets in the body.
Right.
This multi-targeted approach could potentially offer a more balanced and holistic way to address inflammation.
Okay, so instead of just hitting one specific receptor,
Exactly.
cannabinoids might be able to
It's like the difference between a solo instrument and a full orchestra.
orchestrate a more nuanced and harmonious
Exactly.
response.
And there's growing evidence to support this idea.
Okay.
Several studies have shown that cannabinoids like CBD and THC can exert anti-inflammatory effects.
Okay.
And some of these effects may be mediated through their interaction with PPAR gamma.
Okay, so we've got metabolic disorders and inflammation.
We've talked about metabolic disorders. We've talked about inflammation.
Are there any other clinical areas where PPARs and cannabinoids could team up to make a difference?
There are, and this one might surprise you.
Okay.
Researchers are investigating the role of PPARs in cancer.
Whoa, cancer.
Cancer.
I thought we were talking about fat burning and inflammation.
Yeah, it's a big one.
How do PPARs fit into the cancer picture?
It's a complex and rapidly evolving area of research,
Okay.
but there's evidence to suggest that PPARs can influence the growth and spread of certain types of cancer cells.
Oh, wow.
Some studies have shown that activating PPA gamma, for example, can inhibit the growth of tumor cells and even promote their death.
So in some cases, PPAR gamma could act like a tumor suppressor.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's a fascinating possibility that researchers are actively exploring,
Okay.
and the fact that cannabinoids can modulate PPAR activity adds another layer of intrigue to the story.
Are scientists looking into cannabinoids as potential anti-cancer agents through their interaction with PPARs?
They are.
Wow.
There's a growing body of research investigating the anti-cancer properties of various cannabinoids.
Okay.
And some of these studies are specifically looking at their effects on PPARs.
Wow.
For example, researchers are exploring whether cannabinoids could enhance the effectiveness of existing cancer treatments by modulating PPAR activity in tumor cells.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. We've gone from managing blood sugar to taming inflammation to potentially tackling cancer, all through these incredible PPARs.
It's pretty amazing.
It's like these tiny receptors hold the key to unlocking a whole new world of therapeutic possibilities.
I agree. It's a testament to the intricate complexity and interconnectedness of our biological systems.
Okay.
And the more we learn about PPRs and their interactions with other signaling pathways like the endocannabinoid system,
Yeah.
the more we realize just how much we still don't know.
It's both humbling and exciting, isn't it?
It is.
Knowing that there's so much more to discover, so much potential for groundbreaking therapies just waiting to be unlocked.
Absolutely. And that's what makes scientific exploration so rewarding.
But before we wrap up our deep dive
Okay.
into the world of PPARs, I have to ask,
Yeah.
what are some of the challenges and limitations of developing PPAR-targeted therapies?
You're absolutely right. While the potential is vast, we need to acknowledge that this field is still in its early stages, and there are challenges to address.
Oh,
For one, PPIs are involved in so many different processes throughout the body.
okay.
So developing therapies that specifically target PPAR activity in a particular tissue without causing unwanted side effects can be tricky.
So it's not as simple as just flipping a switch.
Not quite.
Okay.
Another challenge is that the effects of cannabinoids on PPRs can vary depending on the specific cannabinoid, the dosage, and the individual's unique physiology.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's where personalized medicine comes in. Imagine a future where we can tailor cannabinoid therapies based on an individual specific PPAR profile, optimizing treatment for maximum benefit and minimal risk.
Wow, that's a powerful vision
It is.
for the future of healthcare.
It's an exciting time to be in this field.
It seems like we're on the cusp of a paradigm shift, moving away from generalized treatments towards a more personalized and targeted approach.
I agree.
Okay.
And the convergence of cannabinoid research and PPA research is at the forefront of this exciting shift.
It's been an incredible journey so far.
It has.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and guiding us through this intricate world of PPRs and cannabinoids.
This has been my pleasure.
All right, and to our listeners,
Yeah.
I encourage you to stay curious, keep asking questions, and explore the vast world of scientific knowledge.
Absolutely. Who knows what groundbreaking discoveries await us just around the corner.
Until next time, keep diving deep.